Matthew here from miniwargaming.com, and it's time for another Sit and Talk. This is the show where you ask me anything about anything, and we'll talk about wargaming, business, and sometimes even politics or religion. So if you're easily offended by any of those subjects, especially wargaming, please do not watch this show. But before I get into the questions, just a little couple bits of news. First off, we've got some new t-shirts on our Mini Wargaming Spreadshirt store, like this one, Team Rye. If you're not sure what Rye means, and it's okay if you don't, it's rules as intended, as opposed to rules as written. So we actually have a Team Raw shirt as well, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but it's the Twilight font, because I thought that would be kind of funny. And so those are available, and there's some new Tyranid-like designs. They're not actually Tyranids, they're aliens, because we know trademarks and all. But go check it out at miniwargaming.spreadshirt.com. And on the same subject of t-shirts, we actually have a t-shirt selfie contest going on right now. This was actually Ash's idea. I think he told me it a week or two ago or a month ago. I don't remember. I wrote it down and say, like, yeah, let's do that. So all you have to do in order to enter this contest, which is like the super awesome contest where you win t-shirts, is to go on a Mini Wargaming forum, go in general wargaming discussion, and you'll see the post about the t-shirt contest. And you just have to reply to it with a picture of yourself wearing one of our t-shirts. It doesn't have to be like a selfie. It can be like from a distance doing something cool. As long as you can tell that you're wearing one of our shirts, you're in the contest. And basically runs until the end of January 2015, at which point I'm going to look at them and I'm going to choose some of my favorites. How many am I going to choose? I don't know. At least 2, we'll say. Like it's really just a fun contest, not really being taken too seriously, and we'll give out a bunch of free t-shirts to that. Just want to have some fun with it and thought it'd be kind of interesting to do that. And so yes, we've already got some people who have posted some selfies there. And I've said the end of January rather than like a week or two from now, so that if you don't have any of our t-shirts and you want to go into the contest, you have some time to get some. So go to miniwargaming.spreadshirt.com, grab some t-shirts, take some selfies, stick it on the forum, and you are entered into the contest. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. So let's jump right into the questions. Of course, if you want your question or comment answered, make sure you leave it in the section below, unless you are watching this on YouTube, in which case there will be a link in the video description to this video on our website, and you need to leave comments there. And while you're at it, make sure you thumb up any comments that you want to be answered, and I will answer the top 10 thumbed up questions as long as I want to answer them, and then I'll answer random questions after that. And this time I did properly print them off. Last week I printed it off in reverse chronological order, and I just hit the wrong button, that's all. So this time I actually do have it in that order. So let's start. Lulskis. Hey Matt, new Blood Angels dropped. I know, pretty exciting. What do you think? I've only briefly looked at the new codex. Just interesting things, like they seem to have removed Red Thirst but gave everything Furious Charge. And Assault Marines are no longer troop choices. Those seem to be the loudest things that people are focusing on. I'm sure there's tons of other changes as well. I know like the Blood Angel psychic powers now they've been kind of cleaned up and put into a psychic discipline, so they match the kind of how the rule book works. And I know things like Mephiston have been changed to just slight tweaks here. I can't give you a full review of it. Dave's going to be doing, obviously Dave is going to be doing a ton of videos on it, because he is our Blood Angels player in Mini Wargaming. But I'm very excited. I always like it when one of our armies gets updated, because we're not a review site or a news site. Maybe one day we will be. I'm starting to think that we should start doing more of that stuff. But the problem is we don't play all the armies, so we don't know enough about them, and so it's hard to do reviews on things that you don't regularly play. Like let's say there's some other army got updated, like orcs get updated. It's like, well, I've played against them enough, I know them enough, but just not quite enough to do full reviews and really be plausible and credible to those who do play orcs all the time. Whereas Tyranids, Blood Angels, somewhat Space Marines, Necrons for sure, and then soon to be some other armies as well, we're able to do some more reviews on those. So I do like when that happens. Kind of like with the Tyranid stuff, I'm doing new Tyranid battle reports and Tyranid reviews. So we are excited about it though. Also, I'm not sure if you guys own an Imperial Fist army in the studio. We do not. I'm a huge fist enthusiast and would love to see more fists in action in your battle reports. We just got to get Chase back in. Chase. I'm almost half tempted to paint a small force and send it to you guys, just so you would feature them more. Not kidding. They're a cool chapter. There are so many chapters, it'd be hard to have them all. I do wish we had a larger variety of Space Marine chapters though, but you know what? This past year, we've added a ton of stuff to our collection, so we've been able to diversify. So it only stands to reason that over time we'll be able to diversify our Space Marine collection as well, because it is the most popular. I've been a member for about 4 months now. Awesome, thank you. I love the Bat Reps and check the site daily for new episodes. It's almost like having a weekly television series to watch. It's more personable when you see your faction featured in Bat Reps because you can see others' tactics and what options work and what doesn't. Until the next sit and talk. Yeah, that's always been the big thing with our battle reports, is people always want to see their armies featured, and I totally get it. It makes perfect sense. It's almost like watching sports, but you let's say you love hockey, and there's a hockey game on, but neither of the teams you really care about. Like, you might still watch it, and because you like the game and you're interested in it, but it's even more interesting when it's a team that you like. Now, this is even more because it's a team that you play on, in a sense. Tyranids are featured. It's like, well, I play Tyranids, and so you're almost rooting for that player, and we're looking up to see what their tactics are and everything that they do. So the only way that we'd really be able to plausibly do that is if we had 40k battle reports every single day, which maybe eventually would happen. Obviously, right now, we don't have the manpower to do that because we want to cover other games as well. If we were only covering 40k, we could totally do that. We could totally have 40k battle reports every single day because we have battle reports every day. So, yeah, you just switch those out for 40k and you're good. But we want to diversify. We want to cover other games as well. Dynamics, hiya Matt. Congratulations on the Ripper. Thank you. Have you seen the Smaug model yet? I have seen it in pictures, but I haven't seen it in person. Opinions? I think it's awesome. Obviously people are kind of seeing the price tag and they think it's a little high. I think it's like $585 Canadian or 500 American or something like that. But it's totally a collector's piece. And when it comes to collecting, price is not nearly as big a factor because it's just you have to have it, and so you buy it. I'd love to have one. It's just we have no use for it, and I'd rather put that same amount of money towards other models. But it's a limited thing. It's cool. It looks like a really neat model. It's made out of resin rather than their normal injection or plastic injection stuff. So it's kind of akin to the Forge World stuff. So, and it makes sense that it would be because for 2 reasons. 1, it's limited, and 2, it's huge. Because if it's limited, then you could do like fine cast or metal miniatures, although Games Workshop doesn't do metal. But can you picture the Smaug model as fine cast or in metal? Metal, that would be awesome. That thing would be like 50 pounds. Vault member until Dave cuts his hair. Oh no. I don't think he's going to be cutting his hair anytime soon. He's grown quite attached to his hair. Now, Matt, congrats on all the rest. And all of the rest. Thank you. Do you know the Tau model from Forge World that is about 10 feet long? 10 feet long? You mean the Tau Manta? I don't think it's 10 feet long, but it is pretty big. I think it's 2.5 feet long? Yeah, it's 2.5 feet, which compared to 10 feet sounds really small, but compared to every other model in 40k, it is enormous. Basically, it actually can hold the devilfishes and all the crisis suits and everything else that it's supposed to hold. I think it even comes with them, and actually they fit inside of it, so it's pretty awesome. When you buy that thing, you're not just buying a Manta, you're buying a small Tau army as well. Can you actually play that ship in the game? I've seen it played once. We had it at our second Apocalypticon. Owen actually brought it. He brought a scratch-built one, obviously. I've never seen one of the actual Forge World ones in person. And he brought it, and it was interesting. That it's very powerful, but at the same time, it's so big that it's kind of hard to maneuver. And it has the rules that you don't have to snap fire when you fire at it, because it's just, you can aim up and you're going to hit it. And so I think it looks cool, and it'd be more like one of those pieces that you bring in every once in a while for a showpiece than something that you actually try to use strategically, because it's just ridiculous at how big it is, and it kind of goes against miniature wargaming when you get something that large. But it is cool. I'd love to have one, but right now our storage space, it would be a big waste of storage space and a little bit of a waste of money because we'd show it like once a year maybe. The Rabbi Ryan. Hey, M Field. 2 questions. I play 40k with my cousin, and he uses a lot of Terminators. I use Necrons and get really frustrated by their 2+ save and a 5+ invulnerable. What Necron units would be good for them? Actually, Terminators are easy to deal with, especially with Necrons. In fact, the best unit to deal with Terminators with Necrons are Necron Warriors, because the way that you beat Terminators is force them to make a lot of their saving rolls. You just throw out a lot of wounds. And because Terminators are only toughness 4, it's not hard to wound them. And you stick 10 warriors inside of a Ghost Arc, and combined with the Ghost Arc, and you get close enough within 12 inches, and you're going to get 30 shots on them. And those 30 shots are going to hit 20 times on average, and they're going to do 10 wounds on average. And then he's going to have to roll 10 2+ saves. And trust me, as soon as you have to roll more than 2 or 3 2+ saves, your Terminators will start to drop like crazy. And that's just with a bunch of low points cost warriors and a low points cost Ghost Arc. So definitely all you have to do against Terminators, no matter what army you're playing, is spam cheap units that can deal out some sort of firepower. Like Termagants are actually not bad against Terminators, because you get so many of them and you fire so many shots. Once the Terminators get into close combat with the Termagants, then it's going to be a little harder to kill them. But then the Terminators have so few attacks that they're going to get bogged down from them anyways. So that's the big thing. Terminators are powerful, but they lack the numbers to really deal with lots of guys. They're more elites against elites. So anything like that. Even regular tactical Marines will be good against them. Obviously, if you have AP2 or AP1 weaponry, it's going to be good. Like I think of the Exocrine for the Tyranids. It's great anti-Terminator because it's strength 7 AP2 shots, whether it's a large blast or 6 shots. And with Necrons, you've got like the, not the Annihilation Barge, not the Ghost Arc. Come on, why is my brain all of a sudden? Doomsday Arc? No, that's the Doomsday Arc? No. Oh, come on, brain. The Ghost Arc that's upside down, basically. And because it fires a large blast, strength 9 AP1. That's fine, but that thing's really expensive. And so you could be just as effective, and it could just miss. And if you move it, it turns a strength 7 AP4, so it's not that great. I think it is Doomsday Arc. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. Yeah, my brain just all of a sudden stopped working there for a second. So really, Terminators are not a big deal. On the other hand, Riptides and Dread Knights and Imperial Knights, those kind of things, those are more difficult to deal with, although there are things to counter them as well. Second, do you think I should go to the doctors if my armpit hair keeps falling out? I feel like this should concern me. Thanks, I love you.
Weird.
This is getting a little strange. Yeah, I would see a doctor for that. Yeah. And love you too, Rabbi Ryan. Demon Stan, best troll ever. The steering wheel bit was awesome. Yeah, there was actually, I'm not sure if I'll get to the person's comment. Yeah, I will. Okay, so never mind. I'll read that when I get there. Yeah, I was surprised I could keep a straight face for as long as I did. Paint Check. Hey, Matt, first, thanks for pronouncing my username correctly last time. It's Paint Check. It's a paintball thing. Also, congrats on the new Little Ripper. Thank you. Questions. 1. How is a flying monster creature getting a jink while being overwatched? Doesn't he have to be grounded to charge? Because monster creatures can't charge while swooping. Me and Buds have talked about this, and the rules state they can't jink while jumping. Ah, see, no, it doesn't. You're thinking of 6th edition. 6th edition, it specifically said that when they were swooping, they didn't even call it jink. They called it like an evade or something like that. Whereas now, and I think that they should FAQ this because it doesn't seem to be their intent, but maybe it is. It just says that flying monstrous creatures have the jink special rule. That's all it says. It doesn't say while swooping they have the jink special rule. It just says they have the jink special rule. And the jink special rule is very straightforward. It says whenever you're the target of a shooting attack, you can declare a jink before they roll to hit, in which case you'll get a cover save. And so that includes Overwatch, because I can't, no matter how much I try to do rules as intended with that one, I can't find a way to get around that, because it just seems that their intention would not be that you could jink while being overwatched, because you're charging straight at the guy, but the rules are pretty solid. They're pretty airtight there. So there'd have to be an errata, not an FAQ, but an actual errata to change that rule. So that actually says you can't jink while charging, like against Overwatch. But, and should jump monstrous creatures or flying monstrous creatures be able to jink while they're jump monstrous creatures? Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, because skimmers can do it, right? And they're not flyers. But I just don't like how they can do it when they charge, because there's no disadvantage to it. Absolutely no disadvantage. Or they should say that, yes, you can jink while charging, but then it counts as going through difficult terrain, because you're not going in a straight line anymore because you're jinking. And so it should be a difficult terrain. Now for monstrous creature, they wouldn't lose any distance, but their initiative would be dropped, and therefore it would have some sort of disadvantage. But, oh well, that's just the way it happens to be. Number 2, what are your hopes and doubts about the new Necron Codex? Well, my hopes are that there is a new Necron Codex coming out, because that's still in the preliminaries. I know there's the new Shield of Baal book, but I've heard stuff about there being Necron stuff in it, but that's not going to be the equivalent to a new codex. The Necrons, I want them to have a new codex, but at the same time that kind of worries me because I actually like how the Necrons are right now. I already struggle enough with Tyranids because they've kind of received the nerf hammer so much, and the new formations and new models help that, but it doesn't bring them up to as competitive, and so it can be hard to play them against several armies. Whereas the Necrons, they play well against pretty much everybody. And you could cheese them out. I try to avoid that when playing, but it does allow me to have a good solid list without being cheesy. So I'm worried that if they do no codex, they're going to nerf a bunch of stuff. Now, things like Mind Shackle Scarabs, yeah, that needs to be nerfed. Right from the beginning, it always seemed too powerful, especially how it has no limitations as to what kind of model it can work against, except against, it can't work against vehicles, obviously. But, Mind Shackle Scarabs could do something else instead. But other than that, and Tesla shouldn't work while snap firing. That's another thing. Kind of like precision fire. Precision shots don't work when you're snap firing. So Tesla probably shouldn't either. Like just little tweaks like that, just to nerf a couple things so that they just don't feel as cheesy in certain areas. But you can also just kind of nerf that yourself by not spamming Mind Shackle Scarabs and having tons of lords with all of that. So my hopes is that there is a new codex, and my doubts is whether it'll be an improvement or not. Because so far my armies haven't been receiving the best treatment with new codexes. Number 3, with 30k now playable in 40k games, are you guys going to do 30k versus 40k bat raps or narrative campaigns? Could be fun. Yes, we will. No word on when, but yeah, definitely we will. Note on the whole new base thing, you don't have to rebase your models at all. What they come with is what you use. No rules or anything out there that says you have to rebase. Also, I read the invisibility power and thought of all the evil cheese I can come up with. Oh, plenty of people have done evil cheese with the invisibility power. Yeah, the new base thing, it's interesting. I don't know the full story of that yet. I'm still kind of waiting for stuff to come out. I know that there's new bases for certain units. Whether that's going to become the new base for everything that's supposed to be in that small base, I'm not quite sure. It does really change how the game plays, obviously, because it changes how much space you take up. It changes how many guys you can get to a charge, and it does make a big difference. And so I can see certain people having a problem with playing against different base sizes. So because it is a big part of the game, but at the same time, the 40k rules never really talk about having to have the base a certain size. And same thing with line of sight. It doesn't talk about a certain, like there's other games, well, the model will have a volume, meaning that like you take the base and you take an average height of the model, and it's kind of like the cylinder, and if you can see any part of that cylinder, you can see the model, even if you can't actually see the model because he's posed in a certain way. Whereas 40k doesn't have rules like that, it just says use true line of sight. And so people can actually convert their models, and it doesn't technically break any of the rules. They could put them on different size bases, and it doesn't technically break any rules. And obviously people know that they shouldn't do that, and there's only going to be a few players, hopefully, that whoever attempt to do something cheesy like that. But since there's no clear rule for it about what size base, like War Machine I think actually specifies with each guy, small base, medium base, large base, that kind of thing. And so it would be good if 40k did that as well, but then when they switch base sizes, that's a big deal, because like think about my armies or our armies, we just have hundreds, probably even thousands of miniatures that would have to be rebased, and that's just not something that we're going to ever do. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But this isn't the first time it's happened. Like we think of the old Terminators, they were on smaller bases, now they're on larger bases, and over the years it just kind of shifts. Over the years you get new models, and it's fine. So it just happens to be a larger market at this point. Lara Cakes. I managed to pause the video right after he told about the steering wheel and go do some Google research for a good 20 to 30 minutes. Then I got back to the video and unpaused it. A really good joke. For those of you who weren't watching, last week somebody asked me what side of the car steering wheels are on or in Canada, and I said in the middle. And I said it for long enough that apparently a couple people believed me. That was kind of fun. That was kind of fun. Zustier. Often in Bat Reps you guys refer to the post-game show, but I can never find the links to them. Where are they? They should be right below the battle report in the video description. So otherwise they're in the Mini Wargaming vault. That's where they always are. Dizzy Wish. This is Matt when he was a kid. Quote, all right, guys, Matt talking to friends, it's time for a game of freeze tag. Matt states that as he was doing a little dance. It's time for a game of freeze tag. That's right. Always dance as they announce things. Logiter, newish member here, hailing from Newfoundland. Well, welcome, Logiter. As we know, weapons that are mounted on vehicles fire from the barrel's line of sight, and certain ones can pivot, spin around to aim at different units. My main question is about the Dreadnought. When assembling them, the instructions are to not glue the arms in place. This allows them to be switched out with other options and positioned in various ways. Because they aren't fixed in place, what stops them from rotating mid-game? It allows for a much larger fire arc, sometimes even behind models, especially if it's being immobilized. Do you mean like taking the arm and going like this? Yeah, I don't think it's intended to move in-game. Like, we're not working with posable miniatures here. Walkers get kind of a quasi-360 firing arc because when they're moving, they can turn and face whatever direction they want. They have no limitations there. But once they've stopped moving, their arc is limited, just like vehicles. So it's just like vehicles. Once they stop moving, they have that. In close combat, no matter which way you're facing them, or which way it's facing, it always counts as being the front arc as long as it's not immobilized. So once again, that goes back to the subject of modeling for advantage. And Dreadnought arms are fixed. They're not turrets or anything like that, and so you have to play them as such. But my main question about, yeah, okay, we read that. Okay. BLK Hawk, hey Matt, when you're doing a battle report, what do you do when you see that the other player is cheating? And if it has not happened, what would you do? Thanks. In our battle reports, I haven't really come across blatant cheating. People might get rules wrong, and it might be to their advantage when they get those rules wrong, but I've never seen somebody outright cheat. Cheese, yes. Rules wrong, yes, definitely. But no cheating. Now, let's say we were doing a battle report and I saw the player cheating. Well, it's quite easy what I would do. I would call them on it. I wouldn't say, hey, you're cheating. I'd be like, hey, that's not how that works. We'd have a discussion about it. We'd look it up in the rules, and I'd allow them to kind of retain their dignity as they redo it. Of course, if they... I've never had that problem, though. And we've been doing battle reports for a long time. We've done hundreds of battle reports now. And I've not encountered somebody coming here to cheat. Like, this isn't a tournament where there's prizes at the line, although we used to give out prizes, but even then, it's just a different feel. People come here, the majority, I'd say 90 to 95% of the people who come in to play battle reports against us are the types of gamers who are casual gamers. And even though I don't mean the casual as in they don't take the game seriously, I mean like they're laid back, they enjoy the game for the game, even if they're really good at it and they have a really awesomely painted army, they're still the types of guys that you like to play against. That's usually the people who will make the effort to come here and play, rather than some of your tournament goers who are win-at-all-cost players or those kind of people. We don't typically get those. They do come in. Okay, we do get them occasionally, but for the most part, we're very fortunate who we get to play against. Bob123654 says, hey Matt, about Mind Shackle Scarabs, I think it should be a base initiative test. But I was also wondering what you would think if jump units could assault flyers. Like in Cruz Azul's new wheels. And then finally, what are the three main differences between the Mormon faith and basic... Wow, okay. We are jumping around in subjects here. So, Mind Shackle Scarabs, you think it should be an initiative test? Sure, whatever. Even that could be too powerful because if you fail it, it's just like devastating. Because you attack your own unit or yourself if you're by yourself, but most importantly, you don't attack the Necrons. See, I would adjust it to be things like modifying weapon skill or reducing the number of attacks to 1, something like that. So something that doesn't totally nerf them, but that makes them less effective. And maybe not a 3d6 leadership test, maybe just a leadership test, maybe at -2. I don't know, something different that just makes it not quite as good. Do I think jump units should be able to assault flyers? Well, if we're looking at them fluff-wise, the flyers are really, really high up, and the jump units are not. They're on the ground. Although you get things like from the Space Marine game where you actually have the one level where you're inside a flyer and there's all the Storm Boys trying to assault. And so it would be cool, but I would leave that for special missions or special rules where you could do that and not in the regular game. And what are three main differences between the Mormon faith and basic Christianity? See, that's impossible to answer because for two reasons. One, what is basic Christianity? because I'm assuming that you think that there's like all the Christian faiths and then there's the Mormon faith, but guess what? The Mormon faith is a Christian faith. So it's like saying, what's the difference between Catholics and Christians? Or the difference between Baptists and Christians? Like, what's the difference between me and a guy? Like, it's the same, they're part of the same category. So they can't really talk about the differences. You'd have to be more specific of a specific Christian faith, because they're very different from each other, even though they have some commonalities. Thanks for answering. Sorry for so many questions. And of course, if you want to ask me more in-depth questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. It's a little better if you email me, matthew@miniwargaming.com. That way I can get more in-depth to the answers that you're looking for. On the show, I'll definitely answer religious questions. I just won't spend a lot of time going into tons of detail, because most people want to hear more about wargaming or business or whatever else that we're talking about. But the questions are still very welcome. So send me an email, matthew@miniwargaming.com, and I'll be happy to answer any more specific questions that you have. Shweeble. Hey Matt, greetings from Russia. A great fan of Mini Wargaming, have been watching for years, love the content, love the players. Please bring Joe with his Eldar shenanigans for a game sometime, LOL. Thank you. Joe, like, I haven't seen Joe forever. He works lots, he's very busy. I don't even know how much he plays Warhammer anymore. I really don't know anything about what's going on. I haven't seen him for years, probably. So don't know what's going on there. But I do agree he was fun. My actual question is about prices on Games Workshop products. This is an interesting subject. As you may know, the political situation between our country, being Russia, and the European Union and USA is far from great. Really? Couldn't tell from all the movies that we love to watch. Because of all the sanctions, the prices on Games Workshop miniatures are outrageous here and have been for at least 6 months. Okay, now before I go any further, I don't really know anything about how things are priced with Games Workshop across the world. Like, I know that there's the quote-unquote embargo that you can't sell outside of Europe, and that really sucked for Australia because their prices are really high. I know there's a difference between Canadian and US prices and between both of ours and everywhere else. Like, I know that's all there, but I'm not quite sure what the disparity is when you go country to country. I have a fairly large custom chapter Space Marines army, and for example, about a year ago I bought Space Marine Strike Force for 8,000 rubles, which is $225. And now it would cost me around 17,000 rubles for exactly the same box, which is still $225 everywhere else. I was forced to put a hold on my Marines, as well as my Second Army Space Wolves and Fantasy. So my question is, would you justify buying recasts in that kind of situation? I know your attitude towards recasts. You already said what you thought in one of the sit and talks, and I agree completely. All the stuff that I bought before the prices went up to the sky is official Games Workshop plastics. But I cannot buy my plastic crack anymore because I have to basically pay more than a double price for it. A simple answer to your question is no, I still wouldn't justify recast. Just because we don't appreciate the price that somebody imposes on their product doesn't mean that we can go and pirate it or steal, in a sense, and go by the recast. So I'd still say no. However, having said that, it really, really, really sucks for you that the prices have gone up so high, and it sounds like in this case they've gone up so much that it's basically made it so you can't buy it, and that really stinks. I think the overall Games Workshop's way of handling international currencies is not good. I don't like the way that they do that. I know they're not the only company to do that, and so it's not unusual. But I just think that, if we're going to be working with the internet here, if we're going to be working with the global market, that we should accept the fact that there's going to be the currency differences and kind of deal with that. So, but is it on Games Workshop side that you got so much more, or is it because of the Russian currency? I'm not quite sure exactly what changed, because maybe the Russian currency all of a sudden took a nosedive, and so now everything is more expensive. I don't know. I don't know the full story. What I would do if I were you, if this is possible, is to actually kind of go out of country and then purchase it and then bring it back. Now, I'm not sure how easy that would be to do it, but it's like, for me, I live half an hour from the US border, so I could cross the border, and that we do some shopping just across the border, because some things are a lot cheaper. Although with duty and tariffs and cost of gas, that's becoming less and less something that's really good to do. But what it really comes down to is it sucks. It just sucks when something is, when the price of something changes from what you were used to and could afford to something that you can't. But I still wouldn't think that justifies recasts, just under the ethical part of it. Referus. Hi Matt, there is a game other than Warhammer 40k or Fantasy that you can play quickly. I think about Kings of War for Mantic games. This game is quick and fun to play, and I would like to see some battle reports with you playing it. Best wishes for your newborn's daughter. Your newborn daughter. I'm like, my newborn did not have a daughter. Cheers. You want to see Kings of War battle reports? That is unlikely. I don't think it's very popular. And on top of that, there's so many other games that I would probably want to cover before that. And also, like Mantic, as much as they have a game for their miniatures, I always kind of had the impression that they make miniatures more as a replacement for Fantasy and 40K, which is a cool thing to do. I don't think there's anything unethical about that. In fact, it makes sense that once a market gets big enough, that you get the discount copycat imitation kind of people that don't just blatantly rip off like Chapter House was doing with a lot of their stuff, but actually give you alternatives. You see that like in the supermarket all the time, right? You go to the store and there's the name brand stuff and then the no-name brand stuff. In most cases, the name brand stuff is going to taste better. Some cases, the no-name stuff actually tastes better. But you know the no-name stuff is going to be cheaper, the store brand. And that's kind of the way I see Mantic. I see them as the no-name brand for 40K and Fantasy. And then they have a rule set kind of just because, of course, they want to have their own rules for it and not say that they're just a no-name brand, even though that's what they exactly are. So yeah, I don't think we'll be covering that game anytime soon, but who knows. Hunstud, what would you recommend as a good path for building an Imperial Guard blob army? So you mean an infantry army? Well, a good path for that would be to buy lots of Imperial Guard infantry. Just a thought. Really, other than that, I don't have any tactics for you. I'm not a huge Imperial Guard player. I've played them a few times. We played them in campaigns a bunch. But it's pretty straightforward. You buy lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of guys. And heavy weapons teams and special weapons and veteran squads and stormtroopers or the Scions, the Militarum Tempestus stuff. Yeah, just buy lots of guys. That'll make a blob army. Miso, Matt, just want to say I think you guys have done a really good job with the new War Machine rules. You've clearly thought really hard about, and just hold on, this was 1 day ago. Okay, so this is after you've seen the new stuff. Clearly thought really hard about, and I'm really looking forward to the games. Thank you. Yeah, I know that Ash was working really hard on trying to fix some of the problems from the last league, introduce some new elements to kind of give it some variety as well. So we're still learning. I'm sure that the 4th season is not going to be perfect, that we're going to find other flaws. And then we'll tweak it again, and we'll try it again, and try different things. And it's an imperfect thing to do because it's miniature wargaming. It's not like it's perfect systems in place, even if you use the official ones. But yeah, thank you. I think there are flaws, as 9 list character restrictions is incredibly harsh, and Mercs and Signar are going to be hit very hard. But it'll be fun to see how it all plays out. I think they've already done a bunch of battle reports for it, and so far they haven't seen any problems with that. A lot of our local players, it's not going to be an issue. Of course, yeah, it does mean you have to have more models and all that, but it just makes it interesting. That's what we're shooting for here. We're not shooting for. You have to remember this. Remember this. The purpose of the War Machine League is to create interesting battle reports. Secondary are the prizes and all that kind of stuff. So we have the prizes there to be an incentive to get more players to come in. But it's more we're designing the rules for you guys more than we're designing it for this perfect tournament system. Would this tournament system be really good to determine who's the best War Machine player in the world? Not necessarily. I'm sure there's better ways to do it. But those better ways might also generate not very interesting battle reports because you see the same lists, you see the same matchups, and it gets kind of boring after a while. In the end, as you can change the format every league, it's really good to experiment. I always thought it would be very good for everyone to take just one faction with no character restrictions, but taking a different warcaster every time. But that could be for another time. Yeah, there's lots of different ways of thinking about it and ways to do it. So lots of different opinions on it too. In fact, I've found that War Machine players are quite kind of like vocal. Yeah, just a little vocal about how they think the game should be played. Whereas in 40K and Fantasy, things tend to be a little more relaxed. And I get it. War Machine attracts and actually caters to and attempts and tries to cater to the tournament players, the players who play the game and for more of like a chess feel than more of a, just kind of throw models on the table and see what happens. I know that there's also casual War Machine players. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every War Machine player is super competitive and has their blinders on, can only play it one way. It has to be this much terrain, exactly placed this way. But there is a lot of that. There is a lot of players that kind of play it that way because they see the game that way. They want it to be that competitive. And when you throw in certain elements, it throws off that competitiveness, throws off the balance of the game. And I totally get that. But at the same time, our purpose is to make good battle reports. And good battle reports aren't the same things over and over again with the same layout over and over again. It's variety. We want to see variety there. Altharius Kurz 123. Hi Matt, thanks for answering my question about the Militarum Tempestus about 3 weeks ago. You're welcome. Now I get to really congratulate you on the baby. I hope she lives a long, healthy, and happy life. Me too, thank you. I may have an idea for a narrative campaign that you might be interested in to use in the future. If you are interested in it for ideas or for use, may I know where I can email it? It will be a general overview of how it would go with some details of the missions. Thanks. Well, you can always email me at matthew@miniwargaming.com, but I'll be totally frank with you, and most likely narrative campaign suggestions will not be used. And the main reason for that is because I've already got tons of ideas, and I love developing them myself. And so somebody else can be a narrative campaign. It's just I'm not going to have the same excitement for it or the same desire to do it. So go ahead, but hopefully you get what I'm saying, that most likely it won't be used. But so I don't want you to go through all the trouble of making it thinking that I will use it, because I probably won't. And Angelikos Raiden, you should check out the back of the 3rd edition rulebook, since I have a much wider variety of missions than any book since that I can think of. I'll have to look that up. Rezayal, hey, so my question is getting reposted from last week. Did you decide how to handle Psychic Shriek and similar powers? Yeah, the house rule is any Witchfire power that does not have a profile will not have to roll to hit. Team Rye for the win. It's just as simple as that. It was obviously it's going to be hotly debated. Not everybody's going to agree. That's very obvious because the poll was almost 50-50, with I think a slight advantage to the Team Rye side, who said that you don't have to roll to hit. Is it the right decision? I think so, obviously, because I made the decision, but I could totally see it going either way. If Games Workshop ever FAQ'd it to say yes, you have to roll to hit, it would nerf so many powers so badly, and I would be very sad. So yeah. I don't think you have to roll to hit. Obviously, not everybody agrees with me. Ash is paid not to agree with me.
I like where that's going.
It's like the opposition in the government. It's like your job is to be the jerk who just disagrees with everything, just for the sake of disagreeing.
All day long.
Oh, that's all you got to do. Just disagree. If you're not disagreeing, you're not doing your job.
One job and I'm good.
Big Mike 315. I'm getting back into 40k after about 10 years, and I'm a bit confused about the number of psychic powers a model gets, specifically for chaos. For example, using a sorcerer mastery level 3 with a mark of Tzeentch, the rules state you only have as many powers as your level. Does force count into this? What about automatically getting the Primaris from the mark of Tzeentch? Does having the Primaris from Tzeentch keep you from being able to get psychic focus, another discipline? In this situation, I'm guessing you get 4 because I don't think force would count, but not sure. It also seems possible to get 5, Tzeentch, Primaris, 3 generated powers, and force. Also, for a non-chaos model, it seems like 5 if you have force and psychic focus, because that sounds like a bonus, but again, not sure. No, you don't get that many powers. Basically, you get you're right with force. Force doesn't count towards your maximum, so it's kind of its own thing. If you have a force weapon, you know force does not contribute to your maximum number of powers. If you're mastery level 3, you could know 5 powers, in the sense that if you chose all from the same discipline, you can get the Primaris and you could have force. That is possible. But if you're for the chaos, for example, if you have the mark of Tzeentch, you have to take one from the Tzeentch powers. And that does count towards your 3, even if you decide to take the Tzeentch Primaris. And so if you choose from something else other than the Tzeentch psychic powers, you cannot get psychic focus, because now you're choosing from 2. So just because they tell you have to choose from there, it basically, the only time where a psychic power does not contribute towards whether you get psychic focus or not is when a model specifically is assigned that power. Like, for example, the new Maleceptor for Tyranids with his psychic overload, technically that's not part of the Tyranid psychic powers. It's not part of that list. And so you think that it wouldn't allow them to get the Primaris, but if you look at it for psychic focus, it says anything that's like that they're just automatically assigned, such as force, but not like they have to take one from this discipline. It's different when you're just assigned a power, and it's different when you're forced to take something from one discipline. So the only way you're going to get the Primaris power for free with those chaos models is if you take all of them from the Tzeentch discipline, for example, if you're Marco Tzeentch. But yeah, level 3 Psyker could totally have 5 powers. He could have the 3 generated powers from 1 discipline plus the Primaris plus Force. But the Maliceptor, for example, he's a Psychic level 2, and he automatically knows Psychic Overload. That takes up one of the 2. And then he takes one of his Tyranid powers and automatically gets Psychic Focus, and so then he has a Primaris, so he'll end up with 3 powers. The Zoanthropes, if upgraded with a Neurothrope, well, the Zoanthropes are Psychic level 2, they know Warp Blast, and then they take another one, which automatically gives them the Primaris power because they can only choose from the Tyranid discipline. And then if they have a Neurothrope, it adds Spirit Leech, but it specifically says in the rules that this does not contribute towards the total. So yeah. Pumsy, hey Matt, have you been considering to get your hands on the Dimericon model from Forge World? Yes, I have one being painted right now. I should get it soon. Would love to see this model in the battle report someday and see how it performs. Personally, I'm loving the model, and it's been a wonderful unit the times I've brought it into along with the list. Would be super fun to see you bring it. Yep, I will have it soon, I hope. Mary Xnids. Hello, Matt. Wanted to ask you a couple questions. For one, what board games do you like? Secondly, what sports did you enjoy or play growing up? What board games do I like? I'm huge into board games, even though I haven't been able to play a lot of them ever since having kids. But we played tons of board games before. I was a huge fan of all the Settlers of Catan and the expansions. We played tons of that, to the point now where I don't like playing it anymore because I'm just bored of it. But we played tons of it. The Dominion game, the Dominion card game, and a lot of its expansions were good until we played that a bajillion times and I got sick of it too. But still, awesome, awesome game. I can say that logically, even though now I don't want to play it. What other board game? We got tons of them in our house. Eclipse is a fun game, but it's more like you play it once every 6 months because it takes so long that you kind of get tired of it by the end, but it is fun. Oh, come on, I have tons of board games in my house. I think I'd be able to remember them. All the geek board games are just fun. I just find a lot of them really interesting. Some more than others, obviously. Pandemic, just recently picked that one up. We played it a couple times. I think that's fun. It's an actual co-op game that's actually co-op. Because a lot of other ones call themselves cooperative games, but there's still a winner, whoever contributed the most. But Pandemic actually is you all win or lose together. There's no like, you contributed the most, so you're really the winner. It's like, nope, you all win or you all lose. So I think that's really interesting. Sports, growing up, I didn't really play sports. I'm not sure if you could tell that. You know, not a sports guy. I was into track and field in elementary school. I was a runner. But other than that, never really played sports. Like I played baseball, I've played soccer, I've played football, I've played hockey, I've played all those sports, but I never played them on teams, or I never really cared much about them. I was a nerd through and through. I liked computer programming, role-playing games, and tabletop games, or like miniature games. Apparently, I didn't realize that's what it was when I played it. But when I played BattleTech, and computer games, of course. So yeah, I was a total nerd. Am a total nerd. But like now, as an adult, it's okay to be a nerd. When you're a kid, it's a little harder because people make fun of you and stuff. Yeah. Demon 666. It's a great name. Very nice name. Matt, what do you think about an Emperor model from Forge World? What do you think the rules would be like? I think they should do one. I know some people don't like the idea because you don't give rules to like the godlike being, because then it all of a sudden makes him beatable by a bunch of Hormagaunts with poison. But that's the case with anything, right? Because Space Marine Terminators should be able to stand up against a lot more things, but in-game, they don't do as well. Like, you read them in a book, and it's just ridiculous how much firepower they can wade through, when I know last guns will take them out if you just get enough of them. But the Emperor, what the rules should be, I don't know, you could probably take a Primarch and just buff them up a bit. Because you always tone down how good somebody is once you put them into the game, because otherwise he just becomes unstoppable. But yes, they should definitely do an Emperor model, and the rules should definitely be available, and it should just be a more powerful Primarch is really what it comes down to. And yeah, that's what I want to see, and I hope they do eventually do it once they do all the other Primarchs. Cool Blue 22. I recommend the Fantasy Flight 40k RPG books, as they are jam-packed with lore more so than the codexes. I actually picked up the Dark Heresy one for that reason, or the Rogue Trader one for that reason too. Commander Hammerblow. Hey, Mini Wargaming, I just wanted to ask what you would recommend for a choppy army. Thinking of starting a new one. What is a choppy army? Do you mean like a close combat army? Like choppy, as in I'm going to chop you with axes and stuff in close combat. Close combat, orcs, Tyranids are your typical close combat ones. Obviously, any army can be kitted out to be close combat, some better than others. Like, I would say Necrons and Tau are not your close combat armies. Not that they can't hold their own in close combat, but just that they're just not meant to be there. So, I don't know, choppy army, if you're looking for close combat, typically you're going to see things like Space Wolves. Blood Angels are typically thought to do that because they all have Furious Charge, if you're looking for Space Marines. And then there's obviously the Tyranids and Orcs, although they're a little harder to play because the game does favor more of the shooting, because the shooting is very powerful, especially when you get into Overwatch and things like that. And so yeah, that's what I would think. Slanked Octord. I don't know how you say that. Hey Matt, I play Space Wolves and I'm waiting for the Forge World Primarch Lehman Russ to come out. But what Primarch are you excited to when he comes out? All thanks from Denmark. P.S. Love that Dave is playing Space Wolves for the All-Father and Russ. Actually, the one that I want is already out, which is Vulcan. So we're going to get that one painted up because the Space Marine, or Mini Wargaming Space Marine chapter is a successor chapter to the Salamanders. So got some ideas for stuff I want to do with them. Our Bigness. Hey Matt, I am new to 40k, though not to the universe thanks to video games and whatnot, and I'm currently painting out my first set of miniatures. Oh, fun. Unfortunately, it seems to be taking a long time. It does. That's a big part of the hobby is painting. I don't do it because I don't like it, but a lot of people do, and they do enjoy it. Not that I mind painting, but I want to get my army together and play soon. What techniques did you use on your Necrons to paint them so quickly? Necrons are really, really easy to paint quickly because what you do is after they're assembled, of course, you spray them with like a silver spray paint, so a silver primer or a gray primer, whatever, and then you just wash them. You wash them with black or whatever color you want to use, and then you can pick out the details. So that really speeds up. There's a lot of techniques out there that can speed up your painting. The two that come to my mind the most are, or three actually that come to my mind the most are, one, using colored spray paint to kind of get that base color. Like if you're painting Ultramarines, rather than spraying them black and then painting them blue, actually just spraying them blue so that you kind of have you've skipped a few steps. The second thing is dry brushing. Dry brushing allows you to cover lots of areas quickly. It works in certain areas and not in other areas. And of course the other one is washing. That allows you to it's kind of the anti-dry brushing. It gets into the recesses rather than the edges. So you combining these methods, you can actually get a lot painted. But in the end, if you want stuff to look good, it's going to take time. That's a big part of the hobby, of course, is the painting of miniatures, and that does take time. Of course, as you get better at it, you're able to speed it up, and you can get just same quality and done in less time, but that takes practice. Rotary. I'm searching for that shirt you're wearing right now, Matt. Is it for sale yet? Love the Gene Stealer. It should have been on the store, miniwargaming.spreadshirt.com. Check it out.
Excellent. So
Yeah.
I will just wait.
Sklodo, hello. Thank you for answering my previous questions. I like sit and talk very much. Thank you. I have more. Some of them are about religion. I got interested because I know nothing about your religion, mainly because there are officially 1,813 Mormons in my country. So chances are I've never even seen one in person. So what country are you in? That's interesting. As usual, if they are offensive, inappropriate, or you have answered them previously, just skip them and sorry. All right, I'm going to do this quickly. If you want more details and more detailed answers, feel free to email me and I will happily answer you. Matthew@miniwargaming.com. 1. I understand you are a Mormon. Can you say what made you choose this religion over others? What experiences and our circumstances? I was raised in this religion, so it wasn't necessarily like I looked at a bunch of them and chose this one. Since being raised in it, I have learned about lots of other religions, and I still would choose this one. What is the difference that makes me stay here with this one? Is just a lot of the fundamental beliefs I believe are true. And just the authority and the prophets and apostles and that kind of stuff I do believe to be true. 2, what are the main practical, I don't mean doctrine and such, but everyday practices, differences between your religion and others based on Christianity? Also, I read that most other Christian religions do not consider Mormons to be Christians. Have you any thoughts on that issue? For example, why? Well, the official name of our church is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so it's always interesting when people think we're not Christians. What some people will say in counter to that is, well, you believe in a different Jesus Christ than the one we believe in, but it's the same one in the Bible. Different people have different interpretations of religion, obviously, which creates all the different churches that we do have. But I always find it interesting that other Christian churches, and not everybody in them, but certain people within them will think that they're all grouped together when they have such huge differences in the way that they do their doctrines and principles and all that too. So practical differences between the Mormons and other Christians, I honestly don't know how to answer that simply, because there's this. It's a very complex subject. So and I don't even know what you necessarily mean by practical. If you mean like things we do on a day-to-day basis that are different than everybody else, I think the one that comes to my mind is that most Christian churches believe in the Bible, and that's it. Like they won't have anything else outside of the Bible, and we don't believe that the Bible is exclusive, meaning that there's no other scriptures. And so we have what's called the Book of Mormon, we have Doctrine and Covenants, we have other books of scripture as well that we hold that to the same esteem as the Bible. I think that is one thing that really distinguishes is the idea of there being more than just the Bible. So I think that's one of the more practical things I could say is a difference. A lot of other things, you'll find pieces of it in other churches, and so it'd be hard to really say, because you're grouping all Christianity together. You could probably find aspects of our faith in somewhere in there, and so if you take pieces from every single one of the churches, you might be able to mainly put together what this church looks like. So that's why it's hard to say this is what's different, because somebody will be able to say, well, we do that. It's like, because there's like some churches that do. So that's why it's hard to compare such a large area, such a large category, because really there's within Christianity there are tons of differences, even though they're all based on the same Bible. Heck, there's even different Bibles, different translations and different versions and different retranslations and all that kind of stuff. So that's what leads to so many differing opinions around the same book. And non-religious. 1, do you know any traditional Polish cuisine other than sausage? I do not. I'm sorry. What's that, pierogies? Pierogies are Polish?
Pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't like...
Cabbage rolls, I think, as well.
Cabbage rolls are good. I don't like pierogies.
What?
No, I've never liked pierogies.
Oh. I can't work here anymore.
But I don't know what...
Deal breaker.
Deal breaker. But they're just... Maybe I haven't had the right pierogies. But so far, every pierogi I've had hasn't been that good. All right?
We're doing a pierogi tasting.
We're going to do a pierogi. You know what? If you bring me pierogies, and I'll tell you, like this, yeah, no, I've never, every pierogi that I've tried, I don't like. It's not that I hate them, I just don't really like them. There's a difference. As cabbage rolls, on the other hand, depends who makes them, but cabbage rolls can be really good. 2, what are traditional cuisines in your country, and which of them would you recommend? Canada is doesn't really have its own traditional cuisine. Like there's things that we call our Canadian, like poutine, and things like that, and back bacon, but in milk and bags rather than in jugs.
That's the important one.
Milk and bags, I love milk and bags over jugs, because it's just better. It's just better overall. Anyway, so the Canadian cuisine is different. Canada is actually a relatively new country, like 150 years old-ish, almost 150 years old. 1867. Like it's not like the States is like 100 years on it, and the States isn't even that old a country. And so most of our cuisine comes from other countries. So because we are pretty much a nation of other countries, just that we have everybody that lives here, and so you get like you have Chinese people who live here, you have Japanese people who live here, you have lots of Europeans, obviously, that live here. And so a lot of that kind of cuisine gets mixed together. So I just kind of eat a bit of everything. Like I'll make pizza and then tacos, and then we'll make potatoes and meat, and then I'll have rice with meat, and then with vegetables, and then I'll have stir fry. Like it's just, it really varies, because Canada itself is a bit of a melting pot for that, or a cultural mosaic, whatever you want to call it.
Sticks and camera,
Recording here. Jeez, so rude. And lastly, wargaming related. 1, what are your thoughts on strongest and weakest Warhammer Fantasy Battle armies? Absolutely no thoughts up here, because I don't play Fantasy very much. 2, have you considered replacing or expanding Old World War series with some kind of Warhammer Fantasy Battle campaign? Well, we'll never replace battle reports with a campaign, because they're 2 different kinds of content. But yes, we do want to do fantasy campaigns once we're able to do that. And then you end it with WG, WM, SATMM, THT. Wargamer who makes stupid acronyms that make Matt twist his tongue. Skidoo. Very nice. Almost done here. A few more minutes. Daniel TMU. Hey ya, Matt. Hey ya, Daniel TMU. First off, glad to hear the wife and the new daughter are well. They are, thank you. 2 questions now. 1, now that Necrons is the only codex left to bring everything into line, will you please do a review tactical series when it finally drops? Of course I will. Pretty pleased with cherries on top. Yes. 2, if I bring a Harbinger of Despair and attach it to a group of Necron warriors and stick them all into a Ghost Ark, when I use the Cryptek's Veil of Darkness, does the Ghost Ark go with the unit or do they leave it behind? Ooh, that one I've never really had to think about the answer to. I've heard that question before, and I've never put a lot of thought to it. But let's see, if I can't answer it quickly, then I'm not going to answer it, because the answer will be I don't know. It doesn't seem like it should be able to, but let's just read the Harbinger of Despair's rules specifically. Where are you, Necrons? I didn't press that. Come on. Come on. Necrons. There you are. Harbinger of Despair. Harbinger of Despair. Necrons are so scary. Okay, here we are. Harbinger of Despair. Wait a second, there is no Harbinger of Despair. Oh, there it is. I was like, yes, there is, but I was looking at the wrong page. So it has a Veil of Darkness. A Cryptek with a Veil of Darkness can use it in its movement phase instead of moving normally or when arriving from the reserve. The Cryptek and his unit are removed from the tabletop and immediately deep strike back onto the battlefield. The Veil of Darkness cannot be used if the Cryptek or his unit are locked in combat. So I guess the question is, does the dedicated transport count as part of the Cryptek's unit? And I'm pretty sure the answer to that is no. So they'd probably get teleported outside of the Ghost Ark. But let me quickly look up dedicated transports to see if it has specific wording saying anything about specific unit stuff. So vehicles. Yeah, it's going to be a unit embarked on a vehicle is probably what it's going to say. But let's just look at the specific, let's look where it actually talks about dedicated transport. Here we are. Dedicated transport. Sometimes a unit entry will include a transport option, allowing a vehicle to be selected together with the unit. It doesn't say as part of the unit. These dedicated transports do not use up a slot, but count as having the same role as the unit. So if they're a troop, then it would be a troop unit vehicle. Blah, 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 blah. For example, a Rhino bought for a Space Marine tactical squad counts as a unit of troops. So the Rhino counts as a unit of troops. But one bought for a unit of Space Marine Stand Guard veteran squad counts as elites. Other vehicles may also have a transport capacity. The only limitation of a dedicated transport is that when it is deployed, it can only carry the unit it was selected with, plus any independent characters that have joined it. After the game begins, it can then transport any friendly infantry unit subject to transport capacity. So I guess you'd have to see whether it says transports count as the same unit, and I'm 99.9999999% sure the answer will be no. So my ruling on it, based on the little bit of research I did right now, would be that if you use his Veil of Darkness rule, yes, you can use it, even if he's embarked, because it only has a restriction that he can't use it when he's locked in combat, that he and his unit would leave the vehicle and deep strike somewhere else on the table. That seems to be the way that makes the most sense for that rule. Wilhelm Screamer. Since the running theme seems to be off-the-wall suggestions, might I add this to the pile? Live battle report where the audience pitches in the instructions for one side while the other side is controlled by mini wargaming. Decide by consensus if need be. Could be amusing to see the audience try and horribly manage a mismatched team to something that resembles victory. Keep it small so the herding cats factor is kept minimal. Then again, the Skype bat reps fell apart really soon after they started, so this seems unlikely. Yeah, the Skype battle reports didn't work because they just weren't interesting. It just wasn't interesting to have this guy just with face on Skype, and that was it. Maybe it'd be interesting if it was like a celebrity doing it, but it's just not enough. You need the person there. You need more of the interactions, and it was just too hard to Skype. All right, 1 minute left. Captain Kador, hey Matt, do you think flying greater demons are broken? I think most of the demon gargantuans are a little ridiculous for what they cost when I compare them to Tyranid gargantuans. But if you compare them to the stuff the Imperium can bring, then they don't look as bad, because destroyer weapons basically are their bane. The flying greater demons, well, you have to remember that a lot of them are going to be good in close combat, but they can't charge while they're flying, and they can't charge when they just to change the landing. So they kind of got nerfed that way. So I think they're broken compared to certain armies, but I think it's just more that Tyranid Gargantuans suck, and the Tyranids don't really have an answer to them, so that's why they feel like they're just too hard. And so I say, no, I don't think so. They're very powerful, though. It seems to me that snap firing into them represents the fact that they are hard to hit, so they shouldn't be allowed to jink. Well, yeah, but that's just a flying rule. Also, Demon Princes and Nurgle have a 2+ save, meaning that unless you're willing to fork over a ton of money for Games Workshop for AA guns, they are practically unkillable. I did the math, and you'll need 2 Stalkers to reliably kill one of them over 3 turns, and my opponent has 3. That's $360 just to kill them. Okay, so you're talking like money to buy models to counter these. Well, obviously that's going to be expensive because the models themselves are expensive, and you're kind of entering that apocalypse-sized thing. And then the game definitely does get more expensive. Also, the fact that they can jink and then charge seems kind of broken to me. Thanks and congrats on the baby. But they can only charge if they're on the ground, in which case they've lost all of the extra things like you don't have to snap fire against them. So I think they're okay. Like they're strong against certain armies, but that's always the case with 40k. If you look at things in a vacuum or just compare them to certain units, then they'll seem very strong. Thank you very much for your comments and questions. Stay tuned for more Sit and Talks. Now, I probably should announce this at the beginning because most people aren't going to be watching at this point. But I probably won't be doing Sit and Talks in the next 2 weeks because we're going to be taking some time off for the holidays. Going to be working over the next 2 weeks, but just a couple days a week and not on the Fridays, just the way the holidays fall. So, sorry, won't be doing another one for about 3 weeks from now. But you can still leave your comments and questions below, and I'll still use the comments and questions from this Sit and Talk to use in the next Sit and Talk. So thank you very much for watching, and happy wargaming.